Hey, everybody. Welcome to the nation. I'm JT. My co host, Leanne Whippen, Hall of Famer that she is on special assignment this week. And we would like to thank the folks at Painted Hills Natural Beef, which we will be talking about in a few minutes. Beef the way nature intended. Check them out at paintedhillsbeef.com. And also the Oregon Dungeness Crab Commission from sea to plate. And you know what? That's a hell of a combination. If you get a ribeye from Painted Hills and about a half a pound of Dungeness crab, you're in heaven. Anyway,
Oh
that's
man.
just my thoughts. Well, wanted to welcome back the COO of Painted Hills Natural Beef. Will Homer has been on the show many, many times. Will is a good friend, and there's a lot going on out there. So, how you holding up there, big cowboy?
I'm just barely holding on. Yeah. Just barely holding on.
For people who are going to watch the video of this show, is that your dry age room?
This is a partner we work with in Seattle who has a relatively large dry age room. A lot of this beef you see behind us will go to a place called El Gaucho's we've all heard of. So it's not all my beef though, but it looks pretty and it smells wonderful in there. It makes you hungry. And they've got all kinds of things from ribeyes, strip loins. They even have bellies in there that they grind, which whatever. We all do our own thing, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, they got a little bit of everything in there
What are they grinding them up for?
for dry aged ground beef.
Oh, really?
They blend it in with regular ground beef so that they're trying to create that wild flavor. Every dry age room has its own sense of life, I guess. I don't
Yeah.
know it. I've seen dry age from everything from this, which is really nice, fancy dehumidifiers and humidifiers and temperature gauges and wind vanes and everything in here, come right down to just a regular old warehouse where they put up some foam sheeting and a black light and said, "Here, this is our dry age room." You know, everything in between. It's whatever you want to sell. Beef is extremely durable, so you just they it gets nice and black like you see back up in here, you know, like
Yep.
this, and they just trim that black off and sell you the steak inside, and it's delicious because it's pre-digested, and it's and it breaks down wonderful. Now, most people wouldn't eat the black stuff on the outside, but what I'm telling you is over here on this other side with the bellies, they're grinding the black part on the outside into the ground beef to make it unique. And that there's just lots of games played to try and make that hamburger special and unique. I don't think anybody's really hit the well, except me, of course. I hit the magic mark because I sell ground beef to guys who sell it and they think I'm magic. They think oh my God, it's the best thing we've ever done is go to your ground beef, and it's just about the way we raise cattle. We don't play these kind of crazy games. So
Yeah. No, I get it. I did I can't even remember the name of the market, a beef shop in Manhattan, and Martha
oh,
Stewart shop there and all that. And
yeah.
they sent me a cookbook and stuff. This was many years ago. And that was theirs was all cedar lined, and of course in Manhattan, this is before inflation and all the stuff everybody's dealing with now. This was,
Yeah.
8, 10 years ago, and they were selling ribeye steaks at 38, $40 a pound back then because it was dry aged in their special room,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
like that.
Yes.
So
Yes. Yes.
there's something to it, I guess.
Yep.
Um, I'm not a patient kind of guy,
Yeah.
where if you sent me a rib roast and I would put it in my dry aged room, which is where I store my golf clubs,
Yeah.
and you know, leave it there for a month or whatever, then I don't have the patience. And to me, it's um, the end process, I guess, is worth it, but I don't want to be in the middle.
Well, I have this terrible weakness of just being in hurry, being in business, doing work all the time. And I've never been to this place where they serve this $100 plate. You
Right.
know, I've never been to a place that had $100 ribeye steak and then you buy the potato extra. You would think in the industry where I am and what I do, you'd think I'd know where all those are. And I have never been to any of them. I don't know where any of them are. I've been in these rooms and seen this beef, but I've never been to a place like that.
I can tell you where one of them is at Michael Jordan's restaurant in the A Casino up in
Yeah.
Vancouver,
Yeah.
because they don't even put the steak prices on the menu outside. They don't even put, market value or what are MVs or whatever,
Yeah.
little initials. They just leave it. It's just like you pay, They did put prices, I think, when my wife and I were there a few years ago, and on their top sirloin steak,
Yeah.
and that was $80.
Yeah. Wow.
So take it there. But next time you're coming through on this side of the mountain, go up there and take a look.
Well, I happened to just drive by there just last Friday, but I didn't have time to stop. I tried to get Gabrielle to stop. Hey, let's go there for dinner, but I wasn't as interested. I wasn't dressed for the occasion.
Do you have your high top boots, pair of shorts, and a cowboy hat on with
No,
the
I had
"I like
I
beer"
had my
T-shirt?
sandals in my shorts. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. We went to a place in Kelso that I fit in, so it was okay.
There you go. There you go. So what's going on in the beef business?
Oh my goodness, nobody really knows. We think beef sells, it's selling. It's just and it seems expensive to the consumer. But it's not paying the bills. So I don't know. It's a weird place to be right now. Nobody wants to give up their market share and and overprice the beef or price it where it needs to be. And so it's a weird. I can't tell you, Jeff. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. On the big scale of things, and our scale of things, it's a tough sell to sell high quality, high end beef for enough money to pay for the steer. It just is. So I don't know what to tell you. I went to a demo in Astoria this week with a store group that was happy to have their 50th anniversary, and it was great. Customers, we gave away hot dogs and we gave away brats and we gave away. I gave out beef samples, and everybody just fall over the sample. What a wonderful thing! And the store bent over backwards. I bent over backwards and gave them an excellent price, and they bent over backwards and gave the consumer an excellent price. It doesn't pay the bills for anything. So now we hope that they remember that when they go back in there to buy hamburger in a month, and
Right.
I don't know. It's a weird world. We're
I still think that we're being and you and I have talked about this personally many times, but I still think we're getting hit with outside influences that nobody can pinpoint just yet. Not some big conspiracy theory, not that stuff. I'm just saying that there's the the our national, our local, our national, our regional, and international economies now are so intertwined. They're so overlapping and stuff that, you know, because we talk about the cost of goods going up, the cost of producing or manufacturing,
yeah.
and oil is up, fuel is up, corn is up. And I'm just throwing out some examples there, but there are influences in other parts of the world that the consumer in the US doesn't see. All they see is last year I bought this can of corn for 97 cents and this year it's a buck 79. Made up numbers, of course. But I still think that we're being influenced by things we can't see in the economy. Eventually it'll shake out to where we see what has happened. But right now, with everything in flux and markets up and down and sideways and this and that, I don't think you can pinpoint it really.
I don't know. It's tough. I tell you, I don't want to sound like I'm throwing mud at my retail partner because I need my retail partner and everything, but they have to. compute oh gosh, I've used the term 1,000 times and now it's going to get away from me. Comparables. They've compute their comparables to last year, and that's all they have to work with. And so, but their margin is 30 some odd percent to pay the bills, right? And so when beef is 25%, 20% higher, and they get their 30% margin still, that slows the flow. And that slows the flow against an industry that's actually has as much beef as it did last year by tonnage. And it actually has more in the US because exports are still off. And so with those two things, it's broken because there's just as much beef in the system. But yet the cattle cost is 10% higher, 12% higher, some crazy thing. And it wouldn't be a bad thing if my cattle had performed okay and such, but we're dealing with, natural beef, no hormone implants. So we got no performance enhancing drugs to make things grow faster and no antibiotic influence. So that means any cattle that got sick in this long drawn out spring and winter and spring we had, they got kicked out of the program. So those costs are really just clobbering me right in the back of the head. These cattle costs should be paying the bills in the background, and they're not. So there's just a ton of things that are just really whooping us. The corn is actually I'm going to say free. The corn guys are going to hate me, but they're going to agree because corn right now is pushing down to the $3.90 level, right? It's 4.20 for December, but they don't think it'll hold $4. So the farmer, they're always their worst enemy. They can fix whatever, they can fix high prices, and they've done that. And so but it just hasn't resulted in the price of this beef yet, and which is I don't know. We got to hang on long enough to feel that.
Oh, absolutely. We're going to take a break here with all this cheery discussion about the cost of steaks. And we'll be back with Will Homer from Painted Hills right after this. Don't go away. Welcome back to BBQ Nation. I'm JT, and today we're talking with Will Homer from Painted Hills Natural Beef. We usually talk to Will 3 or 4 times a year, and I've been a champion of Painted Hills for a long time. If you've never had it, get it. Don't steal it. Just get it. Buy it. I think you'll be surprised at the quality of that. So now I'm going to ask you, and we're not going to get off in the weeds because we talked about this before, but you and I are not going to get off, excuse me, in the weeds on this. How much do you think politics, and I don't want to talk about the election or that kind of stuff, but politics affects markets a lot of times when people don't realize it? Stuff that goes on in Washington, 99% of we're not privy to. That's just because we don't pay attention to it. It's the information's there if you want to see it, but we don't pay. People are busy in their daily lives. But a political decision in Washington, whether it's by Congress or a commission or the administration, whatever, can affect soybeans, for example, or oil or anything like that. And that has, in Reagan terms, it has a trickle down effect in the economy. So, is there anything you see that when the mood of the country is in great shape, that they eat more beef, they're more willing to buy beef, or when the mood of the country is poor, I don't mean the country's poor, I mean the mood is poor, and the inflation rate gets high and all that stuff? I mean, do you notice those things?
There's a lot of talk about when the economy's up, people have got money to go spend, right? They're going to go out to Mazatlan and they're going to go do all these things. And I don't notice it so much. I have noticed that the TV says we're all broke. And so I am not harvesting nearly the cattle I was, and I am pushing harder to get the beef gone that should be easily gone because I think that they convince folks that they don't have any money. As far as the political side, the biggest risk we have is export, right?
Right.
In the United States, our farmers have outgrown ourselves and outgrown our needs years ago and became the breadbasket for the world. And so I can't remember how much of the wheat we export and corn we export, but the pork we export up to around 25%, and beef we're getting close to 20% of the beef we produce. So now that export business is off, the world supply of beef is plugged up and cheap compared to U.S. beef and this cost of U.S. cattle. That's holding us up here. That's hurting things. And it's funny you bring up what decisions are made in the government. One thing that is going on is that we have a years ago, the crooks got shook out of the cattle business. I can't tell you in the early 1900s, and they created a Packers and Stockyards Act that keeps track of everybody and makes sure there's no cheating going on. And so they've thrown out. I think they've thrown out a suggested change, and they're going to take away uh, the current way the rule is currently written is if I have a complaint against the packer or you have a complaint against the packer, somebody hosed you about buying your cattle and didn't pay you, that you have the proper tools to get paid. They want to change some wording so that now it can read if they feel there was some unfair practices, they get to sue you. And the problem with that is that not very many people know how this business works.
Yeah.
So it's pretty easy for me to run out and say, Chevrolet screwing me. I'm not paying $60,000 for a diesel pickup. They're screwing me. Let's go to court. I'm taking them to court. The same thing happens with people in their food. Well, my God, Cheerios is screwing me. I'm going to take them to court. And what that's doing is opening the door for us in the ag industry to get attacked by interest groups because we're always under attack. We're always under
Yeah.
some level of attack. There's money in being attacked, right? So there's groups that can go out to the regular normal person and say, oh my God, the sky is falling. If you give me $25, I'll go destroy the beef industry. And people hand in their money, not knowing that they walk away with 22.50 of it and spend the other on the envelope for the next guy. Right. So
Right.
anyhow, there's always something going on in the government. But back to the consumer, I think the TV. Again, I shouldn't say the TV. Nobody watches TV anymore. They all watch this, right? They all on the
Right.
internet somehow. So I think they're highly influenced by their purchases, by noise.
Have you ever been to Washington, D.C.?
No,
Okay. When you get away from the Capitol grounds and stuff, there's a place called K Street, which is where all the marketing and political consulting groups and stuff.
yeah,
And not far from there, there are rows of what you would call brownstones, brick houses. And
yeah,
they're just all the same going down the streets. And in the front, there's by the gate, there's a little brick pillar and it's got a brass plaque on it. And it says, uh, the committee to protect the blue-eyed wombat in Wheeler County. Okay.
yeah,
And all those things get funded by government agencies. Now
yeah,
they're not government agencies. They have no capacity to enact laws or anything like that. They're not,
yeah,
but they are basically political PACs who get money from us, Homer and Tracy here,
yep, yep,
to make at some point make your life miserable or make the guy who grows soybeans miserable,
yeah,
like that. And that's something that, you know, we all say, well, that has to change. Well, I'm not sure you can change it, but I think people have to be more aware of it because nobody really has the right idea about how much money goes through Washington, how much is influence peddling, which is huge,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
and all of that, and that's what you're talking about. And opening that door to be able to do litigation is that's going to be a tough deal. That's going to be
Yeah.
the genetic modified meat people that want to grow it in labs can attack you all the time, all the while building up an industry that's in direct conflict with the beef producers and the pork producers and all that. So,
Yeah.
like I said, we're not going to get off in the weeds in that too much, but that's kind of the way it is. Anyway, Will and I are going to be back in a minute on BBQ Nation. Excuse me for clearing my throat here. And we're going to talk more about the cattle business. All right.
Get you a cough button.
Yeah, if we were in the live studio, we'd have one. All right. Welcome back to BBQ Nation. I'm JT. Leanne is on assignment this week, and we'd like to thank the folks at Painted Hills Natural Beef, who you're looking at one of them right now. Beef the way nature intended. Also, the Oregon Dungeness Crab Commission from Sea to Plate. We've been doing a lot of work with crab people over the last year, especially on the golf show. Like I said, if you get a ribeye steak from Painted Hills and an 8-ounce crab cocktail, you're good. You're good.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I'm going to say. And also pig powder. That's Leanne's family's world championship barbecue rub there, but you can use it on anything. Go to pigpowder.com. So
It's
like
delicious.
it's wonderful.
Yeah.
The one I was going to send you for Christmas, I actually took it out of the package and used it. I have to wait for the next shipment.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're talking with Will Homer, COO of Painted Hills Natural Beef. With Painted Hills, you're in a small community of fossil.
Yeah.
I think you're the largest employer there. Probably.
Yeah. I don't know. We've kind of shrunk. So it be the school probably beats us now,
How
probably.
about
But
private employer?
oh yeah, 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 yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Yep. Private employer.
I'm not sure that people realize, especially people that live in larger metropolitan areas, Portland, Seattle, LA, when things like this happen, it affects people directly in these small communities.
Oh yeah.
You know, you can't keep as many people on the payroll as you'd like to.
Yep. But we still got to get it all done. So
Yeah,
we're working at it.
yeah, it doesn't stop. So let's jump to a happier note here. If I,
Good.
if I can find one.
Well,
uh,
beef's good. It eats good. It tastes good.
yeah,
It fits on your barbecue grill, you know.
yeah.
You don't have to not eat it because it's expensive. You just need to eat it a little less, and it doesn't take very much. And our system will be flush with beef, and there'll be plenty to go around, and the price will all come kind of down again. But really, they shouldn't. It really is just it's just we all go back to prior to COVID. The sorry, Jeff, I run
Uh,
off
uh,
here on you, but
that's okay.
our food, what was it? Our food budget was a rounding error in our budget, right? I think when it was announced, most common folks, it's 17% of their budget. So now their food bill is 30% higher. Doesn't mean it's 30% of your budget, it's 30% higher than 17%,
Right,
right?
right,
So now it's in the 20s. All
right.
right. Well, okay. Be smart. But that doesn't mean that it's wrecked you. So,
No, that we all have to pay attention to the numbers. So maybe that's two less movies you rent on Amazon Prime.
oh yeah. Yeah,
Something
no
like
kidding.
that at $25 a pop or whatever
No
they are.
kidding. No kidding.
So that what are you seeing you know the the sirloins and the rounds and stuff still moving out the door? Because when the picture behind you is all of rib roasts and stuff, and that's the top of the line there, really,
Right.
for most people. But are you seeing and the hamburger and stuff, is that still holding solid?
Well, it's all seasonal. It's like I was serving New York strips last weekend, right? And they were on special for 14.99. 14.99 retail. That was a great price. Probably sold them to the store at 11 something, which is a great price. I'll sell a strip loin today wholesale to a grocer somewhere in the 14 $15 range from Memorial 2 weeks before Memorial Weekend through the 4th of July, maybe Father's Day, 4th of July. Then once that's over, then they go right back down to where they spend the rest of the year. If I get $8, $8.50 for them, I'm in high cotton. Now, doesn't mean I'm in high cotton, I'm paying the bills. It just means I'm doing better than $6.
Right.
So, but that's the kind of meat, that's the kind of beef, that's what beef does. It has seasonality. So right now, yes, the rounds are actually selling, which is a little strange for this time of year. Probably outselling some of these other items, but these things are getting expensive, right? And in my world, in a lot of beef world, in the last 3 or 4 or 5 years, and again, remember I talked about comparables.
Right.
In the last 3 or 4 or 5 years, as we talked about the COVID money, and everybody spent their COVID money on a Traeger, and then they spent it on beef. They drove the value of these ribs through the roof. And so we're all trying to learn to take value out of these ribs and turn them into something else. So
Are you having trouble like keeping, briskets in? I mean, you talk about the barbecue people. Briskets are the king of the barbecue stuff as
I
far as
made a
beef goes.
deal. I made a deal for briskets with an outside sale that's kind of burning those up. But yeah, there would be problem if I was just working locally in my grocery stores. I'd have too many briskets, so
Yeah.
I had to make a deal that's kind of burning them up on the outside. And strangely enough, I kind of came out okay on that deal. So
Is
yeah,
that the full packers or is that just the flats
the
or
the big ones, yeah, the
the
big
big
ones.
ones? Yeah. Okay.
Uh-huh.
All right. Well, and what about beef ribs? I actually had somebody call me the other day, a friend of mine, and said, "Where the hell can you find beef ribs?" He goes, "I go to my local store and there's no ribs, not the rib eye, just the ribs like that."
Um, uh, the beef rib is the best thing to do is find a local butcher that will peel the ribs off the rib eye themselves for you, because the packer has learned to knife those ribs out. So they make a through and they leave the meat on the rib eye.
Right.
And so we sell back ribs for $2 a pound, and we sell ribeyes for $15 a pound. I want as much meat as I can on the ribeye. So the back ribs that I get from a plant, I can get them, but they're not very good. There's no meat on them.
Right.
You need to go to somebody who peels them themselves, who who they basically, I don't want to say they don't have the skill to do that, because they don't want to do that. They don't need to do that, because also in the retail facility, if they can peel the bone off with some fat on it and sell it for $5.99 or $7.99 or something, they got more money in it than a packer that can only sell it for $2.99.
Right.
So that's how you find the back rays, but you got to hunt for them. Yes, they don't exist in just a. Used to be that you could, like a group, like when we work with the Ross group, they'd do the springtime back ribs, and we'd stock up back ribs truckloads, and they'd sell them for $1.99 because we had $1.99 into them or something. But now,
Right.
and the downside was the customer really never made out with anything.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I know a
Uh,
couple guys that one restaurant in particular up in Vancouver, it's a barbecue joint.
yeah.
And they get, or they did, I haven't talked to them in a couple of years, but they got their ribs out of a an actual butcher in
Yeah.
Spokane,
Yeah.
which is what, 200 miles away. But
Yeah.
that guy would cut the ribs, like I said. And when you go in there, you think you're doing a Fred Flintstone deal with all this meat on this, and you get like three ribs on a plate or something. And because he would cut them right, and then they would they cut them in, 3 rib sections,
Well,
whatever.
it could be you're doing short ribs. See now, so what is a whole pig, right? You take the whole side of a hog, right, and you buy those down at your local discount, whatever,
Right.
is actually three different codes when it comes to a beef. And I'm talking about the what would be the baby backs, the back ribs up underneath the ribeye.
Right.
I think of those ribs, but then there's also below those is a 123A, a 123A short ribs, got three ribs on it. That is the extension of you. We're all aware of the Fred Flintstone tomahawk, right?
Right. Right. Right.
Well, that is the bone, the extension of that bone is the short rib. So I can get that code, but those are the ones they saw into those do they call it flanken style or they call it
Yeah.
shingled or whatever for like a Wajimaya and the Korean short rib style.
Right.
So they've gotten worth a lot of money in the last 5 years too. So,
Well, I
but
can
I have some
remember.
of those out in the freezer right now because I want to make. Ever since you mentioned the Fred Flintstone, I brought them here so I could get some on my barbecue.
Well, I remember when I first started cooking on TV, and then 2, 3 years later, I met you guys, and I used to do flanking ribs. All right, those, the in little trim, they just look like trim like that.
Yeah,
But you could buy a whole package of those for $8. Can't do that now. But
yeah, yeah,
and they're great to chew on. They will make a meal if you cook enough of them like
yeah,
that. But they're no longer.
yeah. That's the back ribs. That's the
Yeah,
that if there's not much meat on them, that's the baby. What would be the baby back or
right,
yeah,
right. But my point is, the retailers used to just trim them off and kind of get rid of them, and now there's such a demand for them. For people, I don't know why they became stylish because, like you said, there's not much meat on them. You got to cook about 6 of them to feel like you ate something,
yeah, yeah,
and you'd get those big packages of them. But now you see them, and there's like five of those strips in a package, and it's 18, $20,
yeah.
like that. So there, the one thing I'm impressed with, actually, is from when I first started paying attention to this stuff years and years and years ago, the beef industry now utilizes more of the steer. There's not as much just getting either thrown away or cut up into grind or ground up into grind or hamburger. Uh, they're utilizing everything.
Oh
So
yeah.
so there's not too much left. Anyway, we're going to take another break and we're going to talk some more about this when we come back with Will Homer from Painted Hills Natural Beef. Don't forget you can find us on Facebook and Twitter, Insta, whatever Insta is, Instapot, and all that. So you can do that and send us a just go info at barbecuenationjt.com if you want to send in a question. Anyway, we'll be right back. Welcome
Sorry,
back.
yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I got all kinds of crazy stuff going on here. I'm trying to, that's all right. I think I got it under control.
Okay. All right. Welcome back to Barbecue Nation. I'm JT along with Will Homer. Leanne is on special assignment. Next week, we've got Megan from Burt Fingers Barbecue is going to be talking about their recent victory, plural, with the Burt Fingers crew up there. So let's get back and talk with Will Homer. Do you see a light at the end of the tunnel that's not the oncoming train?
Well, which for which aspect? I
Well,
think for
just
the
the
consumer,
overall on the beef industry and for the consumer.
I think the consumer side, I don't know. It needs to know that all the labels that it's seen come out over the past 5 years, the grass feds and the thises and the that's, they're going to get weeded down. We're going to find out who's the strong and who can survive. And I heard of some others that actually quit some time ago, and we're going to see some of that happen. beef's going to stay high. It really is not. I've said for years we don't pay enough for it, and that's what gave us room to operate. That's what gave Painted Hills room to grow and become something different. And we are a different item, you know. I mean, we are definitely not something that you put in a room full of meat and have samplings and you can't find it. You find it. It's different.
Right.
And so I hope that it stands out from that. And then back to the packing side, you know, they're in the squeeze. They got creating the same amount of beef, and they got a much higher cost of inputs, not the people, well, the people and the things like that, but the cattle themselves cost more. And so we're in a world where, you know, I just read a headline the other day, the government's going to give away another $110 million for these packing houses and these little got regional guys and things. And that's tough. That's going to be tough. And I think it's going to be tough enough that we're going to get some real news from some of these majors before it's over with, that they're going to take some time off or something. So that's tough on them. And then that'll bounce back and push against the ranch, the cattleman. Let's call him a cattleman, the guy who assembles the cattle and typically owns more than just one ranch worth of cattle and has them on feed and stuff. He's got to have a break. He's the one who's invested in these calves and paying, you know, he's getting a little break on the corn costs, and the winter and summer's been good. We're going to grow lots of corn in the U.S. because the weather's been great. And I'm sure there's some regional people out there that just think I'm nuts, but then the cow calf guy, he's got quite a kicker check here last year, and then again this year. It's looking good for him, and he won't want to give any of it up. But he's either gonna have to give it up, or he's gonna keep cattle at home. And this has always been my contention. And I tell these cattle guys this, and they look at me sideways, and I say, look, you don't know how to pay taxes. You ain't never paid taxes. You always have a fence or a baler or a tractor or some damn thing to make sure you don't pay taxes. And so when it comes time to sell the next round of calves and they make an extra $500 a head, and the income guy and the tax guy at the end of the year says, you're going to pay taxes, he's going to say, no, I'm not. I'm going to keep the heifers and I'm going to go buy some hay. And that grows the herd, and that starts the rebuilding process.
Yeah.
And that's what's going to happen. But it's going to be a slow grind. We've got to find a new place in beef, and we're going to kick the cattlemen back down in the dungeon where they've always been. That's really what's going to happen, which sucks. It's all bad. It's all bad business. But I don't know how the hell to make it all work together. It's a commodity, just like all of them are. Look at the cotton guy. Gee whiz, I think cotton is 70 cents a unit, whatever that is. Is it a pound, a ton, or whatever it is? Why, hell, it was $15 or something not that long ago. It was off the chart 2 years ago. So it's just a commodity. It's just agriculture. That's what we do to ourselves.
Yeah, you talk about cotton. Try to go find a pair of Wranglers for under $20.
Oh no, it doesn't exist. No,
Yeah. Yeah.
no.
And it's
I
all
buy
cotton.
I've moved to the cheap stuff. Yeah, I've moved to the cheaper stuff, you know, thinking, well, I'm going to save money. But geez, I got to remind myself that $65 for a pair of jeans is cheap.
You know,
That's stupid.
years ago when I was in Brazil one time, and we had a break, and they took me to this mall, just like, anything around
Yeah,
Portland or Chicago or whatever. And they took me to
yeah,
this mall, right? And I'm walking in there, and I saw they would have a price, and it was, of course, in reals,
yeah,
their currency. And then it would say, there was right underneath it. So let's say it said 3,422.
yep,
And they put an R behind it for
yep,
reals.
yep.
Okay. And then below it, they would say 1,173 times three. And I
Okay.
and I couldn't figure out what that was. And so I asked the guy who was showing me around. I said, "What does that mean?" He goes, "Well, with inflation and stuff down here, which South America's always been battling that for as long as I
Yeah,
can remember." He said, "Everything is on a payment plan here. So if you want to buy that pair of jeans, it's 3 payments of 1,170, whatever I said, reals, and then you can take the jeans home. But you,
Oh, I was gonna say, how the hell did they get second payment?
yeah, yeah. Well, they hold on to them,
Oh my God.
but that's the way it is. And so, I mean, that wasn't any
Oh,
hard goods that you saw.
wow.
I never looked at automobiles or anything, but just stuff you would go a toaster, a radio,
Wow.
whatever, even cell phones. With cell phones, I think they let them taken because they can always just turn it off.
Yeah.
They can turn
Yeah.
that off and your cell phone becomes worthless. But the
Yeah.
point is, they had that built into their pricing system
Wow.
for hard goods, and I thought that was it was so foreign to me. I didn't
Yeah.
understand it till a few years later when I got home and was thinking about it. That because the general population can't keep up down there. I don't know how it is there because it's been 20 years or more
Yeah.
since I've been down there, but it was just shocked me. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see at some point some system, not exactly like that, but similar to that here in this country. Because you do see it, like even if you buy something on Amazon, they've got a payment plan. You know, you can pay for it over 4 months, $74 a month.
What happened to all those cash your check early places?
Oh,
Are
I
they
think
still there?
I haven't seen one a long time
Boy,
because
they used to be thick, and I don't have to look that up. I don't find out what that scam was. But anyhow,
well,
you're right. This make payments craziness. This is just farming money from people. I can't you. But that was back when you couldn't. There was no interest, right?
right,
So when there
r-
was no interest, I could borrow money from the bank at 0% or 1% interest, and I could buy your pair of jeans for you and get you to pay me 3% interest or 5% interest.
right.
Boy, this. I shouldn't be in the meat business.
You can be Wheeler County's loan shark over there, buddy. Oh, Will Homer
Oh
from
my
Painted Hills
goodness.
Natural Beef. It's always a pleasure. Will's going to stick around for after hours,
Oh goodness.
it's that time, and we're going to
All
just
right.
continue this conversation, trying to keep it on track today. Will and I both agreed that we tend to get. You ever see one of
Oh.
those clover leaf deals on an LA freeway from the air? That's kind of like the way our conversations work. Anyway, we're going to
Yep.
get out of here. Will, thank you.
You
And
bet.
and
Thanks for
like I said, Megan from Burnt Fingers is going to be with us next week. So remember our motto here: turn it, don't burn it. Go out, have some fun, cook something, and most of all, be kind. Take care, everybody. Welcome back to After Hours here on BBQ Nation. I'm JT. Leanne is out on a special assignment. Wish her the best of luck with that. She's doing some stuff down in Florida this week, and she couldn't get away. So
Is there a hurricane?
no, not yet, but that'll be
Oh,
coming.
good.
That'll be
I
coming.
heard, yeah, I thought I heard one named or something recently, but I don't
Barrel,
know.
Barrel.
Barrel,
I have
yeah.
relatives that live in Houston, and I think Barrel was like 3 weeks ago, and a lot of people still don't have power.
Crazy.
I saw the power commissioner or utilities commissioner, whatever the title is, down there coming out and saying, "Hey, leave my crews alone.
Yeah, I
They
bet.
can't even take a break and go to the bathroom and eat their
I'll
ham
bet.
sandwich."
I'll
But
bet.
people are harassing them.
Yep.
Anyway, I wanted to pick up on something you said. Where those check cashing places, they got in
Yep.
trouble, that a lot of them did, because they were charging like upwards of anywhere from 10 to 30%, depending on their location, to cash the check.
Uh-huh.
And there are systems that you can run a check through. I don't even know if they use them anymore, because very few people like pay with checks when they go to the grocery store.
Yeah.
There's always a few older ladies that do that when you're in a hurry, you know, got to get the cold beer out the door. But yeah, they got in, predatory lending is under those
Oh,
laws.
yes.
So they got,
Yep.
and then it was funny. They found out that a number of our prominent political and social leaders in the country had investments in those predatory lending companies. So,
Are we
yeah,
surprised? Are we
no,
shocked?
oh no. That would shocking would be if the mainstream and legacy media ever went back to actually kind of Cronkite and Howard K. Smith type journalism. But
Yep.
hell, that ain't going to happen either.
No.
So, what can, people, a lot of people these days, I am not one of them, but look to the government for answers. I don't think the government can give answers like in commodities. Look at over the years, there's always been price controls on milk,
Yeah.
and that was a sweet deal for a lot of the dairy farmers, especially up in Wisconsin and um, Minnesota and the upper Midwest stuff,
Yep.
like that. But it looks to me like that came back to bite them too in the long run.
It does. It always does. Yeah.
Yeah. But you can't, so I don't think there's an answer there with those guys. Because
Well,
if you've ever talked to one of
yeah.
them, shit, they don't even know what day it is.
No, we're trying too hard to make them part of our business, and we need to make them less a part of our business. And but they're playing hardball, trying to get in more and more all the time. They're now used to be 40 years ago when I was a kid. A cattleman never participated in anything with the government program. A rancher, or not a rancher, a farmer did. Farmer, they one day my banker said, a farmer when you see him, right? Because his hat's all bent up from sticking his head in the mailbox looking for his next government check. So, so, but a rancher now they've created a couple new things that boy that my dad's just jumped right in the middle of them. One of them is a rainfall insurance. So I can basically bet that it's not going to rain and pay a premium. And then they come around and everybody and their mother sells it. And so then you sit around and you watch it not rain and you get paid a check and you go, oh, I got paid a check. Look, but what you don't realize is it didn't rain and your grass is going to be not supposed to be not as good because of that, right?
Right.
So, but and then there's another thing called LRP, and I can't tell you what it stands for, but basically it's the opportunity to buy puts on a futures board at a subsidized rate to help you offset future risk on your calves. It's it's a cost, cattlemen are all farmers are cost averse, right? They don't want to spend any more money than they have to on anything. We're going to straighten nails. We're going to straighten steel posts. We're going to pull. You can't pull wire out of the ground because the ground eats it. But yeah,
Yeah.
but and so protection, future protection, insurance against a loss in the future was still seen as a cost. It wasn't really protection, so they didn't participate in that game. So the government got involved with subsidizing that process and trying to get more people to use the futures to protect their cattle that they have invested in that are standing on the ground. Whether that's a big thing or not, I don't know. We did it one time. It was complicated and convoluted and nah. So
Wasn't that kind of like the old CRP in a way? The set
no,
of
now CRP is different. CRP is a farming for back to the farmer.
right, right,
But CRP was about CRP. I don't know. I shouldn't spread story, but this is after hours, right? So CRP we had a huge year back when I was a kid. We had a huge year of wheat, and wheat was growing everywhere. And oh my God, the price was and the government subsidizes the wheat, has been
right.
subsidizing the price of wheat to the farmer for well, I should remember what I learned in college 100 years ago. But anyway, they set a floor, right? So then the wheat farmer, he sets a floor. Well, he goes crazy. He grows too much wheat. So they go, well, gosh, we can't have this happen. So let's control the amount of wheat in the world and let's create conservation reserve and let's pay the farmer not to farm. Well, then I heard something not just a couple years ago, I guess, and I suppose if I was a historian, I'd look it up, that the U.S. cut the world supply of wheat down, raised the price worldwide, and Argentina ran out and tripled their capacity and flooded the market anyway, and got ended up with all the money. So yeah, it's just farming. That's what farming does. They just
Well, that and the Ukrainians was always called the breadbasket of Ukraine was called the
yes,
breadbasket of Europe, and we would buy stuff from Ukraine, and they would buy stuff from us, but they basically kept Europe and the Western Asian countries and Russia fed,
yeah. I don't.
because
Yeah. years ago, I knew some guys in the potato business here, and they were over there growing potatoes. I don't think Ukraine is Ukrainian.
No.
I think it's a US. I think it's just US not subsidy, sub companies. You know what I mean? These
Yeah.
big corporate companies.
They're subcontracting, so to speak, over
Yeah,
there.
I think
Yeah.
that's what's going on.
Yeah,
I
because I
think.
remember on the CRP knowing some farmers and ranchers that in fact, I talked to a lady who used to be my banker, and then she retired from banking, and then they bought a ranch way in southeastern Oregon.
Yeah.
And she said, "Well, we got on that CRP program. We basically took it over from the people we bought it ranch
Yep.
from." And I said,
Yep.
"Okay." She goes,
CRP made the payments.
"We made the branch payments and paid the taxes with
Yep.
CRP,
Yep.
and then they put in like 8 pivots for alfalfa, and they did pretty good with that. Plus, they had
Yep.
cattle, but
Yep.
like that. And unfortunately, husband ran off and joined the circus, and they ended up selling that ranch. But that's a whole different story. But
that happens too.
that happens a lot. But
Yep.
you just I'm standing there and I'm looking at all this crested wheat and stuff, and I go, this stuff is shitty,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they go, but it's money.
Yeah.
You don't understand. It's
Yeah.
money to us,
Yeah.
So I got some
Yep.
education. Okay, here's a fun question for you. Now you have to do this in reverse, but all those no, and all those ribs behind you, which one would you want to take home? Point to one. I know which one I want, but you tell me.
Well, I'm
Because I've
okay
been
with
looking at them for an hour now. So
yeah, I'm okay with any of these here that have laid here a little while. Those would be good. This black one's there's just so much waste by the time you trimmed
yeah,
it down. But if it's just for me, see now I got an empty nest now. It's just me and Gabrielle, and then my son was eating my leftovers at lunch today when I was there. But anyhow, I wouldn't mind trying this one, but there's a T-bone back there. And there's but yeah, just let it lay there and dry a little bit. Oh, there's one down here. Look at this one down here. This
yep,
is probably aged plenty right
yep,
there.
yep.
And not much shrink to it. And I
Yeah. I was looking at that one, and then where the black one was up above
yeah,
what is your right
this one.
shoulder, come down one row.
Yeah,
No,
right on out
down, not
here.
across, down.
Oh, here.
Yeah, now go one over.
Oh, here.
That one. I would
Oh,
t-
yeah, okay.
I would take that one and the one that's on the bottom rack behind you, on the
Oh yeah,
behind the
that's a good looking one too. Let's see
yeah,
what else is back here.
yeah. Yeah. So there's a couple there, They let us in that room to do any damage. We could
So when he assembled this room, he's got some boards. They had another room that they had for years, and he brought some boards in out of that room so it would bring the funk of the smell with it. So he's got
yeah.
those over on that wall, and then he's got a big wall of salt blocks. And we asked him, "What's the salt blocks?" He said, "I don't know, but it looks pretty, doesn't it?" So
Yeah.
and then over here in the front of me, actually, this other direction, is there's some pork, there's some ducks hanging in this room.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of craziness going on.
Yeah. I've been in a couple dry age rooms, and the smell is incredible.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah.
The smell is absolutely incredible. Um, but again, to me, it's mostly marketing in my book.
It is. It
you know,
is. It
you know.
is.
But I do think it's kind of sharp to grind up the bellies and put them in the grind, put them in the hamburger stuff to get that little kick, if you will.
I guess as long as not too much green stuff grows on the outside,
Yeah, well, they
which
probably
is supposed to be what your lights and your humidity and all that does. And okay, I guess.
years ago there was a TV show, and Leonard Nimoy, Spock,
Yep.
played Frank James in it. Okay,
Okay.
and he was telling some young guy, he said, "This is what we used to eat when we were on the trail," and it was basically a combination of grains and some fruit and stuff, and I think they put some sorghum in it or something, and it kind of And the guy pulls it out. I'll never forget this. He pulls it out of the saddlebag and he goes, "Oh, you just knocked that green stuff." Oh, he didn't say shit, but he said, "You just knocked that green stuff off of it and then eat it like that." And the
Yeah.
guy took a bite of it and he goes, "Well, that's pretty good."
Yeah.
I wouldn't have taken a bite of it.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I've eaten a lot of weird stuff in my life, but I wouldn't have done that. Sorry.
I know all that pre-refrigeration. We ate a lot of this stuff pre-refrigeration.
Yeah. Yeah.
Man, I'm telling you, that was different than it is today. And yeah, pretty
Well, we had
crazy.
at my grandfather's place, they had an ice house. And when they slaughtered a pig or they did a lot of lambs.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
They only raised half a dozen steers a year, but they were they raised a lot of sheep. They were farmers. And you would go in there and there'd be these sawdust and big blocks of ice. And that's how they kept them cool all year long. Because
Wow.
once a week or whatever, the ice truck would come by and they had those big tongs and they'd
Yep.
pack in
Yep.
3, 4, 5 blocks of that stuff, and the sawdust kind of insulated it.
Wow.
And I remember that they tore it down shortly after my grandfather died, and
Yeah.
that was a long time ago. I was about 6,
We got a building out here on the ranch that has sawdust walls in it that
Yeah,
yeah. Mhm.
yeah. So we've come a long way in that aspect of it. Now, if we could just get the markets under control, we'd have a
I
whip.
know. I know it. I know it.
What's your favorite cut? I've asked you this before, but now, because you've got access to everything on the beef,
Yeah.
from
Yeah,
oxtails to
well, sort of.
tongue.
We work at it, but
Yeah,
I think just regular everyday culottes awful good. You know, it's a good piece. It's a picana, and it's pretty popular. And I was at the again with this food with this store down in Astoria, and they said, "Yeah, we put pecan on it. It's gone." You know, everybody loves that. So, and then we came home here the other night. Gabrielle says, "Cook something. I want leftovers." So that's what my son was eating today was I cooked some outside skirts up. Now outside skirts are like you talked about before. Were just credit items before, just get them gone.
yeah,
They were $3.50 a pound. Today I get $11-12 for them, and that's a 50% yield. So that's a $25 wholesale cost. It's crazy. But it is delicious. And I turned
yeah.
my Traeger up on high and I laid it on there and closed the lid. And when I thought about opening the lid, I left it down for another 2 minutes, and then I opened it up, turned them over, and left them there. Just they're absolutely god awful delicious.
You
I
know,
call that crack. You know, that is
yeah,
beef
yeah.
crack.
I took one of those at Painted Hills the other day, thawed it out. I stripped it out. I put it in a wok, and I just used some salt, pepper, and garlic. And just about the time I was starting to mix it up, I dumped some mushrooms in there because I love
Yeah.
mushrooms and
Yep.
a little
Yep.
red pepper, and I served it over some mashed potatoes,
Oh,
and it was just heaven.
yeah.
Just heaven. There's no recipe, so don't bug me about the recipe.
You just
Just
gave the recipe. I heard it.
I
I,
just told you how to do it. you know. But no, there's no, eighth of a tablespoon of something, But that's
I
the way
went
I
to
did it,
yeah.
and we love that. I mean, I've done that a number of times, and my wife
Yeah.
just loves it when I do it. It's so tender and juicy, and that I don't make a gravy or anything else. And
Yeah.
just put it on the
Oh
mashed
yeah.
potatoes, and it's a meal in itself, man. It
Yep.
is really good. Anyway, well, Will, thank you. I appreciate it as
You
always.
bet.
Where can people find out more about Painted Hills? I should ask you this in the
Well,
regular
we go
show, but
to
I talk about it every show. So
yeah, well, you just Google us, but it's paintedhillsbeef.com or natural-beef.com because we were older than the internet, right? Or we are older than the internet. But paintedhillsbeef.com, go there. You'll see lots of good stuff. We're trying to enhance our online sales all the time. It's kind of bumpy start we're in, but that's a good thing. That's a good movement. I think we're trying to get to the people that way without the retailer needing their 30% really. I
right,
mean,
right.
or use it a different direction. So that's good. And then kick around Gabrielle, is my wife. She's doing all our promotional stuff. She stuck her nose in here a minute ago to make sure she got me on Instagram. Well, there you go. See,
Yeah,
Instagram,
yeah.
talking to you on the walkie talkie here. So Yeah, so it just look for us. We're working at being out there. So,
Okay.
and you have any questions, just reach out to me and ask and say, hey, and you can ask me about other people's stuff. I don't care. I like to talk.
Yep, I know that for a fact. Anyway, well, thank you, everybody. Thank you for listening to After Hours. We'll be back next week, like I said, with Megan from Burnt Fingers. Till then, remember our motto: turn it, don't burn it. And let's try to be kind to one another if we can. That's probably the most philosophical I'll ever get, but I think it's a
That's
good
all
thing.
right.
Take
It's a
care,
good thing.
everybody.
Absolutely.